switch gears and talk a little bit about employee benefits. And to do that is Lisa Schromek. She is from the U.S. Department of Labor, the Employee Benefits Security Administration. And she is going to talk to us a little bit about retirement benefits as well as health care benefits. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Annie. Hi, everyone. I am a benefits advisor with the Chicago Regional Office for the U.S. Department of Labor in the Employee Benefits Security Administration, or EBSA for short. And EBSA enforces ERISA, which stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, along with some other smaller laws which have amended it. These laws together offer protections for both health and retirement benefit plans. And while we are an enforcement agency, a significant part of our mission is outreach and education. And since job loss affects benefits, I will provide an overview today of the applicable provisions to assist you in making some of the best possible choices with respect to your health and retirement benefits. And we'll start off with health coverage and end with retirement benefit reminders. There are several options to consider for health coverage, and I understand that you all may have advanced knowledge of different coverage options already, so some of this may just serve as a reminder. But in the next slides, we'll go over the different options, including HIPAA special enrollment rights, young adult coverage rights, COBRA, and of course the federal marketplace coverage. HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, is the law that has historically offered protections to participants switching from coverage under one group plan to another. And while the requirement has gone away for HIPAA certificates of creditable coverage, some employers still provide these voluntarily as a way to provide notice of your last day of active employee coverage. Keep in mind that your last day of active coverage can be as soon as midnight on the last day of your employment, but it may continue through the end of the month or the end of the pay period if your coverage was already paid through a later date. And thanks to the recent insurance reform provisions of the Affordable Care Act, HIPAA now provides that when enrolling under a new employer group plan, coverage must be effective no later than 90 days after a new employee satisfies the plan's eligibility requirements. Previously, it was permissible for employers to allow enrollment as of the first of the month after the employee completed a full 90 days of service or longer, but it is now limited to no more than 90 days. So that's just something to keep in mind for your next job. Another provision of HIPAA, called special enrollment, allows someone who qualifies for a spouse's employer's plan but previously declined coverage under that plan to enroll outside of the open enrollment period when there is a loss of coverage or a life event. So this can be a cost-effective alternative to COBRA or maybe even marketplace coverage if the other employer-sponsored plan, such as your spouse's employer's plan or a parent's employer's plan if you are younger than age 26, if that employer shares the cost of health insurance premium for active employees and their dependents. Special enrollment requests may be required in writing, so it is wise to be sure to check with the employer to understand the plan's requirements. Coverage under the plan must take effect no later than the first of the month after the request is made. So even though you have 30 days to notify an employer, remember to request the special enrollment prior to the start of the coming month if possible, so you can avoid a possible longer break in coverage. COBRA is often used in conversation as a plan of insurance or type of coverage, but it is the name of a law which was passed in 1986, and it applies to employers with 20 or more full-time employees. so large companies basically. The COBRA law allows you to continue coverage under the same employer group health plan offered to active employees on a month-by-month basis for up to 18 months at your own cost. Because COBRA is a direct continuation of the same plan you had as an active employee, everything about the coverage stays the same, including the proof of insurance card, the doctor or provider network, and any progress that you've made towards an annual deductible. COBRA allows independent elections, so if your employer offers medical, dental, and vision coverage as separate plans, you can elect to continue just medical but not dental, or vice versa. I mentioned that COBRA can last for up to 18 months, but you should know also that it may end sooner. For instance, if the employer ends their group health plan or shuts down operations completely. In such cases, there may be no plan left in existence to continue under COBRA, so you have no coverage continuation rights. Assuming the plan is left in place, the one thing that can and usually does change with COBRA is the cost that you are used to paying for the coverage. If the employer covered a portion of the premium for active employees and deducted the rest from your paycheck, under COBRA they can pass along both the employee's and the employer's costs plus a 2% administrative fee. But remember, there are ways to reduce the cost through independent elections. And just as you can choose to continue a dental plan but not the vision plan, if you have family coverage, you may choose to continue the coverage for just one family member rather than the whole family, and the amount that you pay will depend on what you elect. You will receive a notice in the mail with all the information you need to decide about continuing coverage under COBRA, including the monthly cost and where to send the payments. This is usually automatic to someone after a job loss within 44 days. And the way they get 44 days is that the employer has 30 days to notify the plan, and the plan has 2 weeks or 14 days to send the notice. This COBRA election notice packet will either have the return address of your employer if they do COBRA administration in-house, or it may have the return address of a third party that they've hired to take care of compliance for them. And larger companies may do this just for ease of administration as well. So this can usually be a payroll service company such as ADP or a specialized COBRA service provider such as COBRA Source. And you will get 60 days to respond about electing COBRA, starting from the later of the date that your active employee benefits ended or the date of the notice. If you don't want COBRA, you can just let your 60 days to decide run out and not respond. You cannot be required to send payment with your election, and if you do elect COBRA, you will have a 45-day initial grace period for payment. Depending on how long all of this takes, you could end up owing something like 3 or 4 months of coverage up front to catch yourself up to the current time. But going forward, your monthly payment amount is usually due by the first of the month or whatever they set as the due date. And then it is considered within the grace period if your payment is received within the 30 days of that same month. Keep in mind that the sooner you elect and pay for COBRA, the sooner your benefits will show up as active again. Because of the administrative time delay involved with sending the notice and the time that you have to make your decision, your coverage in the meantime can show up temporarily as canceled until your payment is received and posted. However, COBRA is the only coverage option that will cover you back to the date that your active benefits ended, leaving you with no break in coverage, and any other plan that you may sign up for will only cover you going forward from the date of enrollment. Sometimes people get concerned thinking, well, what if I have a doctor's visit scheduled? What you can do is that notify the office that you are in a COBRA notice and election period and request that they hold off on billing your same insurance because you'll have the same proof of insurance card. Otherwise, you can pay up front and then submit your out-of-pocket cost for reimbursement once the coverage shows up as active again. Same thing would go for a pharmacy, although they usually won't dispense medication without a payment up front. So in that case, your only option may be submitting for reimbursement. And certainly, if you are in the process of interviewing for a new job or searching, and this might happen sooner rather than later, you can often use the time delay to your advantage and hold off on actually paying for it unless you know that you will need it. But also it's definitely wise to keep in mind we now have the IRS individual shared responsibility liability in order to have health coverage in place. There are exemptions that are available on the IRS website, and one of those exemptions happens to be if you have a break in coverage of less than 3 months in between two plans of coverage, you won't be subject to a tax penalty. So all of that information, definitely keep it in mind and use it to your advantage. If anyone is younger than age 26, you will definitely want to pay special attention to the information about this option. In case you didn't know, thanks to the health insurance reform, one of the new requirements is that employers must allow adult dependent children up to age 26 to join or remain covered on a parent's plan, even if they are married, financially independent, not living with their parents, not full-time students, or even in some cases eligible to enroll in their own employer's plan. The only exception with that would be if the employer's plan has something called grandfathered status. And adult children may be enrolled during a plan's open enrollment period or during other special enrollment opportunities such as a loss of coverage. And the employer or insurance company can always provide details on requesting that and how to enroll. Of course, another alternative we all now have is shopping for coverage through the new health insurance marketplace. And while that is a possibility, it is still also possible to apply for financial need-based coverage directly through the state or to purchase individual coverage directly through an insurance company or broker. So we'll briefly go over these options in the next slides. This slide goes over the basic facts about shopping for coverage in the marketplace and the open enrollment, which is still quite far away, but you do have the special enrollment rights now at this time. Another portal for learning about coverage options for Illinois residents, I understand, is also getcoveredillinois.gov or the phone number 866-311-1119. And my understanding is that the Illinois website is most helpful for screening someone about qualifying for financial assistance, while the federal website, healthcare.gov, is great at providing details on the available coverage options, and so is most helpful for comparison shopping or determining whether your doctors are in network with any of these plans. And if this is a misguided understanding, I would love to know what everyone here today listening thinks. There are several very important clarifications with respect to the decision to replace COBRA with marketplace coverage. Initially, if someone signs up for COBRA but later decides it is too expensive or for whatever other reason wishes to end the COBRA before the 18 months run out in order to switch to a marketplace plan, you should know that this can only be done during marketplace open enrollment, even if COBRA coverage hasn't run out, and that if you end COBRA coverage and apply for a marketplace plan, you may not qualify for the tax credits and premium assistance. And so that is, again, something that a lot of employers may not understand. Again, today's audience may be an exception. You may already know all of this. However, if you still are undecided about COBRA versus marketplace coverage, you should know that there has been some recent clarification about independent elections under each. So, for instance, if someone enrolls on a medical plan through the marketplace and their former employer offered medical and dental options separately under COBRA, it is possible to choose the dental coverage only with COBRA under your former employer without affecting eligibility for marketplace financial assistance towards the medical coverage. As long as someone does not enroll on another group medical plan, either COBRA or otherwise, my understanding is that you can still keep the subsidy which you may qualify for. Otherwise, signing up for another medical plan after you've signed up for marketplace medical coverage will cause you to lose financial assistance towards the marketplace coverage. However, if someone has maybe met their annual deductible for a plan or the doctor is only considered in-network for the plan that you had through your employer, COBRA could be still the better option, especially once someone has been covered under that particular plan substantially into a plan's fiscal year. As you may know, Medicaid is a state-based program for free or low-cost care based on income and family size. You can apply for and enroll in Medicaid at any time of the year, and if you qualify, your coverage can begin immediately. Similarly, CHIP, or the Children's Health Insurance Program, is another state-based program which provides low-cost health coverage for families with income above the limit for Medicaid. And it is something that covers parents and pregnant women in addition to children. And each state has its own rules and qualifying guidelines. You can definitely visit the website insurekidsnow.gov or call the number listed in this slide for more information. Again, it's my understanding that it's possible to enroll at any time of the year, regardless of the timing of a life event or a loss of coverage, if you qualify based on financial need. And finally, transitioning to the retirement plan benefit reminders, we would like to just offer some brief but important information. Regardless of the type of plan that you may have to save for retirement through an employer, such as a 401k or a traditional pension, it is a great idea to keep your address updated with the plan if you happen to move or relocate in finding a new job, so that you can continue to receive plan mailings and the plan knows how to find you when it comes time to pay benefits. In my office, we often get phone calls from people later in life. It's very common for companies to merge and change ownership and reorganize. And on top of people moving around, it can become very difficult to track down a prior employer's retirement plan. And that's not the sort of problem you want to face when it comes time to retirement and you want to simplify your life. So we get a lot of phone calls from people seeking assistance, tracking down benefits through former employers. And one of the most important things that we can ever tell them, which doesn't really seem very intuitive sometimes, is to make sure you keep a former employer or plan updated on any address changes for you. And just make sure that you're getting at least once a year reminders about benefits that you may have with that plan. Normal retirement age for full benefits under a traditional plan is usually age 65, but different plans offer different options. And just like health plans, retirement plans must also be administered according to a set of written rules. And if you don't already have a copy, or maybe you've misplaced it or don't remember receiving it, you may want to ask your human resources or benefits person for a copy of the written rules. And the formal name for this document is a Summary Plan Description, or SPD for short. With a 401k, you may have a bit more flexibility to decide whether to leave your money with the plan or to roll it over into your next employer's plan or an individual personal IRA retirement savings account. But with many 401k plans, a distribution or cash out option may exist for someone who has separated from service with the company. It's just important to be aware that you may be taxed and owe an additional penalty if you have the account cashed out prior to age 59 and a half. And that's because we usually put pre-tax money into a 401k, so when you take it out, you pay the tax. But if you're younger than age 59 and a half, there is a tax penalty as well. Finally, we are available to contact for any questions you may ever have about your rights under an employer health or retirement benefit plan at any point in time in a career. And you can reach us easily by calling the toll-free number here Monday through Friday. And you can also send us a web inquiry at askebsa.dol.gov. And you can check out our website for more information, including consumer publications, but they have conveniently been placed in the file pod for you by our host, Chelsea, so it's available for you there as well. And I also want to thank everyone for their time and attention and wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.